Let's now speak to Dan Perry about these latest developments. He's a former regional editor of the Associated Press and also served as the chair of the Foreign Press Association of Israel and is joining us from Tel Aviv. Mr. Perry, thank you so much for being with us. I wanted to ask you first about the significance of Secretary of State Blinken's call for Israel to now end the war in Gaza, saying Israel has achieved its goals. Is the Netanyahu government likely to heed this call now from an outgoing U.S. administration?
No. Netanyahu has been quite brazen in ignoring most of the wishes of this administration. And I think that will continue during the transition. I think Netanyahu is feeling rather confident about the fact that Trump's reelection will soon put into place an administration in the U.S. that essentially disagrees vehemently with the very narrative that your channel represents. You have right beneath me the tagline "Genocide in Gaza." I disagree with that, legally speaking. Trump absolutely does, completely.
But Trump has said also, Dan Perry, that he wants the wars to end. And a lot of people believe he is sincere about this, that he wants the war to end. Will Netanyahu heed a Trump call for the war, the conflict to come to an end?
That's just it. You asked me about Blinken and Biden.
Yeah.
And by the way, what Blinken said is also what Netanyahu's now departed defense minister said. As soon as he was fired, he went basically on the air and said the war could end tomorrow because the hostage deal was attainable and the blockage of it was political from Israel's side. So that's quite remarkable. But nonetheless, I don't think that they're going to heed Blinken's call unless behind the scenes or maybe even overtly Trump supports. You're right to point out the assumption by the Israeli right and by the current government that Trump support is automatic to whatever Netanyahu wants to do may be wrong. It could be a double-edged sword. Trump says he wants the war to end. There's two ways to interpret this. One, that he's the same as Biden. Two, that he wants Israel to take even more radical action in order to put an end to it once and for all, which by the way, is possible, despite the great destruction. So we'll have to see how that will play out. But it's important to look at the appointments as well.
I want to ask you about that because I think I just wanted to tell our viewers first about these appointments that Trump has made, these picks. They're not confirmed yet, but these are the picks that will shape his administration's role in the Middle East over the next four years. And I just want to show our viewers first, before I ask you about them, Dan Perry. Trump has tapped his close friend and fellow real estate tycoon, Stephen Witkoff, to be the special envoy to the Middle East. Witkoff has no formal diplomatic or foreign policy experience. He's also picked former Governor Mike Huckabee to be the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Huckabee, we know, has long rejected a Palestinian state and is quoted as denying Israel's occupation and the illegality of Israeli settlements in occupied territory. And Trump has also nominated Congresswoman Elise Stefanik as his UN ambassador. She's repeatedly accused the UN of being infected, quote, by anti-Semitic rot and has called for a permanent cut to funding for UNRWA. Dan Perry, when you look at these appointments and these key positions in the Middle East for roles like the Israeli ambassador, foreign secretary, how is this, first of all, being viewed in Israel? And is this more good news for the Netanyahu government?
Well, like I say, it's dualistic. These appointments are all over the place. Witkoff is basically, can be seen as a voice for peace. Trump has called him a voice for peace. And the idea is that he would work to extend the Abrahamic Accords to bring in Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia has made clear that they will insist on some movement towards Palestinian independence, or at least a diplomatic process with the Palestinians. Huckabee doesn't like the two-state solution, but, you know, and that reflects a sort of cry in that direction. But then again, U.S. ambassadors are not the ones who call the shots. Rubio is the interesting case. Rubio clearly, again, is pro-Israel, and he does not believe that the Hamas action of October 7th can be justified in any way. He wants Hamas gone. But does he not want a two-state solution? I think Rubio does. Rubio comes from the moderate wing, the pragmatic wing, the non-MAGA wing of the Republican Party. And his appointment, should it pass, reflects something of a return to the model we saw in 2016, where many of the people surrounding Trump were pragmatic, and we're not really MAGA. So we see three different things here: a Trump crony, a classic Republican, and a total MAGA. I think Trump will call the shots. Trump doesn't want a forever war.
Right.
And the thing that the Israeli right may not be taking into account is that Netanyahu can't go against Trump the way he went against Biden.
Interesting.
So he'll have a lot of leverage on Israel should he wish to use it.
Interesting. You say the appointments right now, those picks that he's made, Trump, are a bit all over the place. How then, if that's the case, is the Netanyahu government preparing for this new term? What's on its list of priorities?
I think I think they don't know. In the case of Lebanon, I think they assume correctly that they have the support of pretty much any reasonable player in the ecosystem, including the government of Lebanon, to do what they can to eradicate Hezbollah and to implement at least 1701, if not 1559, which calls for a disarming of all militias. Now, so Lebanon, I think they feel like Trump will support them no matter what, and that they are pretty close to winning that war in a way that's important for nothing less than the world order. In Gaza, it's messy, because the only possible outcome in Gaza is for the Palestinian Authority to be brought back to power. I think there would be widespread agreement, again, across the global ecosystem that would be a good thing. Perhaps reformed, maybe a different personnel, perhaps Mohammed Dahlan, a lot of names are thrown around. But Netanyahu can't move in any positive way on Gaza because his right-wing government prefers eternal occupation, which I can assure you that the people of Israel do not. So I think on Gaza, Netanyahu's kind of flailing and trying to buy time. And again, we'll have to see if Trump allows that or if some elegant solution can be found. Clearly, there's urgency because of the humanitarian situation in Gaza, among other things.
Dan Perry, thank you so much for sharing your views with us and for bringing us a perspective there from Israel.